Have you ever had that heart-stopping moment where you swipe your card and for just a split second, you're praying it doesn't get declined? Or that knot in your stomach when you look at your bank account and realize there's way more month left than money? For years, that was my life. I was drowning. Not in some dramatic movie scene way, but in that quiet, suffocating way that so many of us experience every day. It's the slow-motion panic of living paycheck to paycheck, feeling trapped in a cycle you just can't seem to escape. And I tried everything. I downloaded all the budgeting apps, I clipped coupons until my fingers were sore, I said no to every single coffee with friends, and I still felt like I was stuck on a treadmill, just running and going nowhere. The stress was this constant hum of anxiety that followed me from the moment I woke up to the sleepless hours of the night. It felt like my bank account wasn't just a number, it was a brand on my soul that said not enough. But what if I told you that the tool that finally broke that cycle for me wasn't a complicated spreadsheet or some fancy investment strategy? What if I told you it was a simple, ancient practice all centered around one little object I started carrying in my wallet? I know it sounds way too simple to be true. I thought so too. But stick with me because I'm about to share how I stopped being a victim of my finances and finally took back control. To really get what changed, you have to understand the hole I was in. This wasn't just about being broke. It was a mindset. It was this deep down belief that I was just meant to struggle. Some experts call this a poverty mindset or a scarcity mentality. It's the idea that there's never enough to go around, so you have to grip every penny like your life depends on it. That mindset is like toxic software running in the background of your life, messing with every single decision you make. I remember this one night so clearly. I was sitting at my kitchen table with my bills spread out like a fan of failure. My car insurance was past due, and I had to choose pay the insurance or buy a full week of groceries. It was just a horrible sinking feeling. The stress wasn't just in my head, it was physical. I could feel it in my chest, this tightness that never went away. I was exhausted, emotionally, mentally, physically. I felt like I was failing, not just with money, but as a person. My relationships were strained because I was always irritable and anxious. My health was a mess because I was living on instant noodles and stress. This is the real price of financial struggle. It bleeds into every part of your life and just steals your peace. I was doing everything I thought you were supposed to do. I made a budget, but it just felt like a list of everything I couldn't have, punishing and restrictive. All budgeting did was remind me that I wasn't making enough, which just made me feel even more hopeless. Those digital apps for tracking my spending, they became a source of shame. Every notification was another dollar spent, another failure. It's a common trap. We're told to track everything, but if your mindset isn't right, tracking just becomes a detailed log of all the ways you think you're failing. The cycle felt unbreakable. Work, pay bills, feel broke, feel stressed, and then do it all over again. I was convinced that no matter how hard I worked, this was just my life. And that's the most dangerous part of the poverty cycle. It convinces you that you belong there. My breakthrough didn't come from some finance guru on a private jet. It came from desperation, from late-night rabbit holes of Googling how people actually change their lives. I wasn't looking for money tips anymore. I was looking for a real, fundamental shift. I started reading about the psychology of money and how our beliefs and our feelings are what really drive our financial habits. I learned that our relationship with money is almost never about the math. It's about the stories we tell ourselves because of the math. That's when I stumbled on this idea that kept popping up across different cultures and even in modern psychology, the power of physical rituals and focused intention. From ancient traditions using a pinch of salt to purify finances and attract prosperity, to feng shui principles for attracting wealth into your home, the common thread was this: your physical world and your inner world are connected. The things you physically touch and see can actually change your mindset. One practice stood out because it was so simple: creating a physical anchor and keeping it close to you. So I decided to try it in two ways. First, combining psychology with this ancient wisdom, I grabbed a small blank card, about the size of a business card. This was for retraining my brain. I wrote a simple statement in the present tense, as if it were already true. I am in control of my finances, and money flows to me to support my goals. Second, to tap into that ancient energy, I took a tiny bit of sea salt and sealed it in a small pouch. For centuries, salt has been used as a powerful tool for purification and protection, believed to absorb negative energy and attract good fortune. These two things, the card and the salt, were going to be my anchor. Not a lucky charm, but a physical ritual to create a new mindset. I folded the card, placed it with the small salt pouch, and put it in my wallet right in the main slot where I'd always reach for my debit card. That was the start. These simple objects were about to become the most powerful financial tools I ever owned. Look, putting a card and some salt in my wallet didn't magically make money appear in my bank account. That's not how this works. What they did was interrupt the pattern. They were a physical stop sign that forced me to break an old habit, starting with the thing I did most often, opening my wallet. Here was the practice. Every single time I went to buy something, I had to touch that little bundle first. Before my fingers grabbed my debit card, they'd brush against the folded card and the salt pouch, and in that tiny 2-second pause, I'd read the words in my head. I am in control of my finances, and money flows to me to support my goals. The first few weeks were a revelation. That little pause before spending became a moment of mindfulness. It forced me to ask a completely different question. Instead of the old, shame-filled question, can I afford this? The new question was, does this purchase support my goals? The card was reprogramming my conscious thoughts, while the salt felt like it was cleansing away all the old negative energy I had around money. Suddenly, that $5 coffee wasn't just $5. It was $5 that wasn't going toward my goal of building an emergency fund. That impulse buy at the checkout wasn't a treat, it was a choice to stay stuck. The guilt was gone. It was no longer about what I was giving up, it was about what I was moving toward. Touching those items over and over started to change what I believed about myself. It was a daily, sometimes hourly reinforcement of a new truth. I started to believe I was in control because I was acting like I was in control. It's a basic principle of behavioral psychology. You can change your feelings and thoughts by first changing your actions. To go along with this, I started tracking my spending in a super simple way. Inspired by the old school envelope system, I only tracked my flexible spending, things like groceries, gas, and personal stuff. I kept another small folded piece of paper right next to my affirmation bundle. After every purchase, I'd just jot down the amount. Seeing the numbers add up in my own handwriting was so much more powerful than looking at a digital log. It made my spending feel real in a way a banking app never could. Slowly but surely, things started to shift. After the first month, I had an extra $50 left over. I know, not a fortune, but it was the first time I hadn't ended the month at zero. The second month, it was $100. That knot in my stomach started to loosen. I wasn't afraid to look at my bank account anymore. Instead of shame, I felt a little flicker of pride. I was finally building a small safety net, and that brought a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. That was the real transformation. Going from a mindset of never enough to a mindset of there is enough and I can manage it. If any part of my story, the stress, the anxiety, that feeling of being trapped sounds familiar, then I'm challenging you to try this. Don't just watch this video and click away. Take a small action. Find a little card or a slip of paper and write down an affirmation that feels right for you. Or create a small salt pouch, or do both. Put it in your wallet. For the next 30 days, just commit to pausing and connecting with it before you spend any money. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be sharing more real strategies and mindset shifts to help you keep going on this journey. Breaking the poverty cycle isn't a one-and-done thing. It's a bunch of small, intentional actions that build on each other. Let's do this. Oh, and share your affirmation in the comments below. Writing it down and sharing it is one more way to make it real for yourself. Today, my financial life looks completely different. I'm out of debt, I have a healthy emergency fund, and that constant, crushing anxiety about money is gone. But the biggest change isn't the number in my bank account. It's the story I tell myself. I went from believing I was destined to struggle to knowing that I am in charge of my financial future. That object in my wallet wasn't a magic charm. It was a tool for mindfulness, a tool for intention, a tool that helped me break an old destructive pattern and build a new empowering one. You can use a written note, a small pouch of salt, which in many cultures symbolizes purification and prosperity, or even a coin from a year that felt good to you. The object itself isn't as important as the ritual and the meaning you give it. Breaking the cycle of poverty starts with breaking the cycle of your own limiting beliefs. It starts with shifting from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. It starts with taking control, one small choice at a time. So, I'll ask you again, what story are you telling yourself about money? And are you ready to start writing a new one? The power to change your finances is already with you. It's in your mind, it's in your habits. And maybe, just maybe, it starts with a simple object in your wallet.